then you need to be listed on metamorphosisconnections.com. It's a network where you can grow with like-minded practitioners and reach new clients. Metamorphosisconnections.com is an online directory you need to list yourself and your business. Our platform makes it easy for you to create listings of your products and services, and you can also choose to list your classes, events, and so much more. Metamorphosisconnections.com helps you create weekly and monthly promotional ads targeted towards your potential clients and promotes them for you via social media and newsletter. There are clients searching for your specialty right now. Let us help them find you. Start your listing today so you can share your own unique gifts and talents by finding the level of membership that best fits your needs. Let us help you reach your clients that are searching for what you do. Visit metamorphosisconnections.com and sign up today.
It's that time of year again where the weather is getting nice and it's time to get out of the house for some family fun. Lilliput is the perfect place and is open for the season. Be the first to take on their newest escape room, The Bunker. It's intense, exciting, and totally unforgettable. Prefer spooky? Try the Haunted Mansion. When you're done escaping, hit the mini golf course, go-karts, and jump pads. Lilliput is perfect for parties and group events too. Visit lilliput.net for hours and start your spring adventures at Lilliput.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Clear tonight with a low of 33, then Wednesday sunshine with a high of 61. Nightingale is your cozy, comfortable neighborhood bar and restaurant at 26th and Lindale in Minneapolis. Come in for the famous Nightingale burger or the ginger tamari chicken wings. View their menu or place a takeout order at nightingalempls.com. Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host, guest, random reptoid, or chupacabra may not necessarily reflect those of AM 950 Radio, its affiliates, or its sponsors. Now, it's time to step into the unknown. There are things people experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in the corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us. Share your story, share your experience, because this isn't just your story. This is our story. This is GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun.
And this is GhostBox Radio on AM 950, where every night we talk about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, and so much more. My name is Greg Bakun. Thank you very much for joining us on this Tuesday evening. Really appreciate you taking the time and listening to what we have to talk about tonight. Before we get any further, I just want to also thank everybody for allowing me to indulge last night into some of the personal and sort of the inner workings of some of these sort of conventions and some of these community things in the paranormal. There'll be probably more talk about that over like Casual Friday, stuff like that. But I'm happy to say tonight we're going to get back to really what it's all about here. We're going to be talking about stuff that is going to help you, stuff that's going to maybe change your opinion on stuff, or at least open your mind to different things. We're talking about spirit tonight, and I'm very, very happy. Well, first of all, that my guest is on time tonight. That's you didn't think I was going to get by without saying something, right? I mean, come on.
Oh, good ribbing is always good.
Yeah, it's always. I love it too. You're just kind of like, I'll get you, love and light. So I am very happy to have back Kaedrich Olsen. Kaedrich is an internationally renowned author, speaker, and teacher with over 30 years of experience guiding people through their supernatural and spiritual concerns. From early childhood and throughout his life, Kaedrich Olsen has led a paranormal life. His lifetime connection with advanced beings called the Whisperers gave him a keen awareness of the landscape of the afterlife, knowledge of how to work with various entities, and powerful ways of clearing unwanted attachments from home and individuals. Always happy to have Kaedrich with us tonight, and you can get more information and see his classes and everything he's offering over at Kaedrich.com. That's Kaedrich.com. Kaedrich, welcome back to GhostBox Radio.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad to be here again. Thank you.
Well, and here's the thing. This is why we want to do this. First of all, because I am such a fan, and I really love talking with you. But we did have this great conversation going the last time you're on, which was in like February, I think, something like that. And just as we were getting really some great conversation going here, we had to go. It was the end of the show. It was like one of those great things of like watching a game show, and just as you're about to get to something, okay, well, join us next time for the rest of it, that sort of thing. And we wanted to keep this conversation going, didn't we? I mean, that's the exciting part about it. So where we left off, Kaedrich, is that we were talking about spirits who, I think the question that we raised was when spirits, when someone passes, you become a spirit, they have the opportunity to cross over or they don't. And one of the things we were talking about we were about to talk about are some of the reasons why those spirits wouldn't cross over.
Mm-hmm. That's my memory as well.
So why is that then, Kaedrich?
Good question. Let me think about it. Yes, there's a myriad of factors in there. I would say the primary factor of spirit not wanting to cross over is they don't know they're dead.
Yeah.
The thing that has come up when I talk about this to people is like, well, then how do I know that I'm not dead right now? Well, it's because you can touch yourself. You can interact with the physical. You can communicate with human beings. You get feedback from other people. You can instantly interact with the physical world without confusion. You're there, so you're alive.
Yeah.
But what happens with these folks is maybe death comes on suddenly. They get into a car accident. They have a heart attack. Whatever happens, it's an instant moment of death. And it leaves them in a state of confusion. They're like, wait, what's going on? Where am I? Why am I here? For example, I was doing a private seance. And when I do seances, spirits tend to come over that need crossing over.
Sure.
And all of a sudden, this guy walks in wearing like a motorcycle suit, holding his helmet, kind of looking around, confused. And I'm talking with the other person. Do you recognize this? They're like, no. So I'm like, where are you? Who are you? Where are you from? What's going on? Of course, I don't use words. It's like an inner knowing. It's claircognizance is how I do communication.
Nice.
And he was telling me that he remembers riding in a motorcycle. He remembers like an accident happening. He saw EMS show up. He saw the paramedics. He saw the ambulance. He saw that they were working on some guy on the ground. They loaded the guy up into the trucks. They all drove off, and he's standing there going, what about me? You guys forgot about me. What am I doing here? And he said he'd been basically wandering around. He couldn't interact with people. He'd ask for help. People would just like walk by him, like walk through him. He's just like, he wasn't even there, which left him really confused, left him scared. Like what the heck is going on?
Mm-hmm.
But even still being a spirit, they can feel energy. They can sort of feel like an energy well, an energy pocket, which is what I create when doing seance, so that spirits are attracted to that. And he felt that pull. And so he came in going, what's going on here? What am I doing? And so when I realized that he didn't realize he was dead, I had to walk him through that. It's like, who do you think they were working on? Who do you think that guy was on the ground? Who do you think it was that they loaded up in the back of that ambulance? That was your body. That was you who died. And he's like, oh. And then he kind of put the two and two together. Like, I got to do a bad wreck. EMS. Oh, that's why they can't see me. That's why they can't interact. So what do we do? And that's where I help spirits cross over. We open a bit of a portal. We call in loved ones. We call in teachers and guides and saying, hey, this guy here needs some help. Would you mind giving him a hand to cross over? And sure enough, he went through with no problem. So in his case, he didn't know that he was dead.
What is there a point there? Because it sounds very mellow the way that you explained it. Is there a point where this gentleman with the motorcycle accident, that there's a moment of any kind of grieving on any part? Because I can't imagine being told, well, you're actually dead, that there can't be a moment of at least something hitting you, something profoundly hits you. Did anything like that happen?
Not with him, but it's happened with others. With him, it was kind of a moment of recognition, or like a light turn on. It's like, oh, I get it.
Mhm.
There was others, like in a public seance, there was a mathematician that showed up, and he was just kind of been wandering around. He had no idea what was going on. I don't know what he died from, but when he came to the realization this was a seance and he was dead, he was like, but my wife, my kids are adult kids, but what about them? He was really clinging on. He's like, if I can't be dead because I can't leave my loved ones behind. He had this grief of not letting them go, but he got that reassurance. Is like, nah, you can still visit. You can still hang out and see what they're doing. And hopefully someday they'll learn how to communicate back with you.
Do you recommend all spirits to cross over as soon as possible? I had a situation. I'm not going to say what it is because it's actually kind of tied to the station a little bit, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm sensationalizing it. But there was a big car. A drunk driver drove into a patio of people over Memorial Day or Labor Day this last year at a restaurant. And I reached out spiritually to the two people who passed to see if they needed help crossing over, because I cross over to as well. And one, the gentleman, he already was gone. He was already gone. The other, the mother, she was a mother of two young children. She opted to stay. She wanted to stay. She wasn't ready. She wanted to be as close by as possible. Do you get those situations? What do you recommend to them at that point?
Something like that. We also have to be careful, and it's good. It's good to communicate with them, because if they can hold, let's say, a coherent thought, if they can, you can have a complex conversation with them, and there's some realization, there's some understanding. You're dealing with an intact soul, and that intact soul, definitely help them cross over if it's an intact soul. But if you encounter a spirit in a traumatic situation like that all they can do is like, I got into an accident. Oh my God, this is horrible. I got into an accident. You're like, yes, you're dead. Do you need some help? Oh my God, I got into an accident. That there's just like that trauma, and only the trauma response.
Right.
You can't hold a coherent conversation.
Yeah.
It's a revenant.
Right. It's like they're in shock, right? Like a spirit in shock, and there's nothing that they can. It's probably a loop at that point to a certain degree.
Exactly, because what a revenant is we as human beings, whenever we have a traumatic moment, it could be like a little fender bender, could be somebody yelling at us, a part of our soul actually fragments off, and it lives in that moment over and over and over, like a loop, like you were just saying.
Yep.
But it holds a tendril back to us. This is why, like, if you've ever gotten to a fender bender, still like a few hours later, you think about it and you're like, oh, and you still get that visceral reaction because you've got that fragment of your soul living that moment over and over. But death is the most traumatic thing that can happen to us. It's not always, but usually. And the intact soul may cross over, but that revenant remains stuck in that loop. Now, remember that revenant basically is a trauma body. It's just a host for trauma. And that intact soul, when it crosses over, might be going through a complex healing process. It might be going through something on its own already, and it's not ready to receive that trauma back yet. So I tend to leave revenants alone. If they can't hold a coherent conversation, if they're just stuck in that moment, I leave them there, because that intact soul may not be ready to retrieve it. But when it is ready, when it's ready to reach out and bring that back, it has instant access to it.
It almost sounds, and I know it's not, but it almost sounds like almost residual energy in a sense. If there isn't, it just kind of replays certain that aspect, I suppose.
Exactly, because in the spirit realm, there is no sense of time. There's no past, present, future. The lifetime that we live from with a birth to a death is like a continuum. It's like a container of existence. And this is just a fragment of a moment that has that residual energy that gets stuck on repeat.
I'm going to ask something that I'm always careful of, because I don't want to offend anybody. And my prelude to this, my disclaimer to this is I firmly personally believe that there is a difference between faith and religion. Okay. That's how I'm going to start this. You might know where I'm going with this. I feel like that in my experience, religion itself has been a stoppage for people to cross over based on the beliefs of not the faith, but the beliefs of the religion.
Yes. And there are two major factors for that one. The first is the concept of hell, of eternal punishment.
Yes.
And in those beliefs that get really pounded into people's brains, like any minor infraction, if a man looks at a woman and says, "Ooh, how beautiful is that?" Well, there you are. You're going to hell. The Bible says if you say to somebody, "Ooh, you fool," oh, there you go. You're going to hell.
Yep.
And they feel that they've not done enough atonement. They feel they've not done enough whatever, that they're this horrible person. So it's like, oh, I'm dead. I'm not going into that light. I'm not crossing over because I know there's the fear of hell coming and I'm not doing it.
Yep.
Which just sucks.
I have always had this theory. And like I said, it's a theory. I don't know. We're not, I'm not going to know until, I go, which hopefully will, not be 5 years from now, but like, hundreds of years from now or whatever. The theory has always been for me that we create, if we want to, we're going to create our own hell in the afterlife. To exactly what you just said. If I feel like that I stole a piece of gum when I'm 8 years old, and my religion is like this, you don't do that. Any sort of, like you said, minor infractions is what's going to impede your future. That's why I believe that people who are truly nasty, who don't have those boundaries, people like, well, they're going to go to hell. They're going to do. I don't think so, because they don't believe in that concept. They don't believe that they've done anything wrong. And right. I think that's the difference there.
And I've seen a place like what you've just described. Many years ago, when I was much younger, of course, my whisperers took me on various tours of the afterlife, different places in the spirit world. And in one of these ventures, I came across a field of people that were just kind of like, staring off. They were just like mindless. And they were tethered to a little pole, each of them tethered to a pole. And they were just standing there, mindless, blank look on their face. And I'm like, I asked the whisperer, "What's going on here?" And he said, "This is hell." And I'm like, "What? This is hell? What do you mean?" And he was like, each one of those individual people think they deserve an eternity of punishment. They think they deserve some sort of hell in the afterlife. And so they've created it for themselves. But then he pointed out, look, among them, you see the other people standing there? Those are the watchers. And what they're doing is they're waiting for a little glimmer of hope, a little gleam of light to show up where they question, do I have to be here? Is this where I'm supposed to be? And then they whisper, no, what if there's something else? What if you could do something? Then they sink back in. But then the next moment they come back out, they're like, yeah, do you want to explore something else? Do you want to see something different? Because you still can't violate free will. If these people believe that they need some sort of punishment or torment, they're going to give it to themselves. But those watchers are there waiting for that moment when they're like, okay, I'm ready to heal. I'm ready to move on. Then they're taken to a place of healing, and they're taken to a place where they can get through that. But you're absolutely right. We create our own hell if we believe that we deserve it.
Absolutely. Kaedrich, why don't we go ahead and do this? Let's go ahead and take our first break. When we come back, I want to talk more about crossing over. I want to share some stuff. I want to hear more from you. Also, anyone in the comments as well. I'd love to know what you think, or if you have any questions for Kaedrich. Also, I want to talk about the Whisperers. We got a lot to get to. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Greg Bakun here. I love historic tours of Minneapolis and seeing everything it has to offer. But if you know me, I like to include a little spooky in my tours, which is why I found the perfect combination. Minneapolis Trolley Tours does this amazing candlelight ghost tour that you have to check out. It's an extremely immersive experience. It's a trolley trip that starts out at a haunted mansion, traveling around Minneapolis locations exposing ghost stories that the public and business owners would rather left untold. Then a tour of the aforementioned haunted mansion where ghosts of past residents from the 1800s reside, plus a lot of surprises to discover. Next, experience Gertrude's After Hours. Did I mention Gertrude is the mansion's most famous ghost? Maybe she'll show up. And you finish up the tour at Gertrude's Lounge in the haunted basement of the mansion with refreshments and Q&A. The trolleys are climate controlled and the mansion is restored to perfection. Check out MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for more information. Have you ever met someone who not only can help you on a deep spiritual level, but also potentially change your life? Refined Divine is an extremely gifted psychic medium who travels the nation and lives right here in the Midwest. And she offers mediumship, mentorship, house and business parties, energy healing, palm readings, and so much more. Refined Divine has helped thousands, and she can help you.
Hi, this is Psychic Medium Deb. I cannot wait to hear from you. You can go to refineddivinepsychic.com.
Greg Bakun here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville. It's that time of year again where the weather is getting nice and it's time to get out of the house for some family fun. Lilliput is the perfect place and is open for the season. Be the first to take on their newest escape room, The Bunker. It's intense, exciting, and totally unforgettable. Prefer spooky? Try the Haunted Mansion. When you're done escaping, hit the mini golf course, go-karts, and jump pads. Lilliput is perfect for parties and group events too. Visit lilliput.net for hours and start your spring adventures at Lilliput. And if you are watching us on GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun on Facebook, I would like to ask you consider sending some stars my way. That is a fantastic way to get the algorithms going in our direction so that more people have access to this program. I see a lot of people in the comments, and folks, thank you so very much. Wade says that to Christine and Courtney, always love this show. I really appreciate that, folks. If all we want to do is get more people to notice the show. That's really what it comes down to be perfectly honest. If you're watching a GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun, please consider to send stars. Also, another way to support GhostBox Radio, if you so desire, is becoming a Patreon member. You can do so. Go to patreon.com/GhostBox Radio. Starts as low as $3 a month, and you have access to 10 years of sounds like a prison sentence. Actually, you have access to 10 years of GhostBox Radio through all the iterations that I have done over the years, plus special episodes and stuff that's not available anywhere else. That's patreon.com/GhostBox Radio. I am very happy to have with us tonight Kaedrich Olsen. We are talking about spirit, to be perfectly honest. We're talking about crossing over. That's where we left off. And I want to talk a little bit because a role that I never thought that I'd be taking on in my paranormal journey is crossing over spirits. And that's exactly what I do. And I use Spirit Box to help me do so. And what I love about that, I mean, everyone has their own way of doing things. And what I love about doing it that way is that I can hear spirit through the Spirit Box tell me, that they made it, they're there, all that stuff. And, and also you could feel it. I could physically feel it as well. And, it's been really interesting, Kaedrich, is that we've done it. I do it every once in a while. I'm going to do it again this Thursday evening at 9 p.m. Facebook Spirit Box session. And when we do it, and we do crossing over a spirit with a group, I never ask for their energy. I only ask for their intention. But everyone can feel it as well. There is something really beautiful about that. We've also had the situation, kind of getting to what you talked about in the last segment. There's been a couple in particular that something went haywire in somebody's life where they weren't necessarily fearing the fact that like religion or God or whatever is going to, punish them, but they didn't think that they were worthy to cross over because of something that has happened something that they have done to somebody, and that is really interesting, and we had to work through that. I'm sure you've had to do that a number of times.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's that whole sense that over there it's beautiful, it's wonderful, I get the healing, but here it's like, oh, but no, I'm just not worthy. I've just led a crud life. I've been a crud person. I haven't done these great things. I deserve this or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is why, as we're living, that's where we get the healing done.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that's come to my realization over the years is if there's spiritual level healing, if there's emotional healing, it can be done on the other side. It's just not as easy. It's because the reality that you experience over there is a reflection of your inner world. So if you're in a down, depressed state, then the outside world is a reflection of that. And it gives like this feedback. And so you're sort of, in a weird sense, stuck. Like we were talking about the souls that believe they were in hell. They're sort of stuck in that loop. But when we're here, when we're feeling those shadows, is why I do shadow work. When we're feeling those blocks, when we're feeling those negative emotions, we have those negative thoughts, even the trauma. When we do that work to heal ourselves here, we don't carry that with us into the other side. We realize, oh no, cool, I'm there, it's ready to go. So I'll always encourage you to do the emotional healing, do your shadow work, do the trauma integration work while you are alive. And I got to throw this out there.
Yeah.
There are some people that even will think, oh, well, if it's better on the other side, I get the healing, it's great over there. Why don't I just call it quits now because things suck now? Don't do that.
No.
Because you kind of have that reflective emotional state. It's harder to get through that when you're over there. It takes longer from your perspective to get through that. Believe me, stay here. It's hard right now. I do know. Believe me, I do know. But you get through it. Talk to somebody, reach out for something, and it will get better. It does get better. Believe me, it's easier to heal that here than it is over there. And despite what religions tell you, there is no hell for suicide, okay? But still, heal here, stick around here, make that choice and commitment to do that here.
The escape mechanism that a lot of people feel with suicide, right? Basically what you're saying, there is no escape mechanism. That a lot of people use the term release from your pain and stuff. That's not necessarily true, is what you're saying.
Correct. You carry that with you. So, but you can heal that here. So much easier because your reality doesn't shift here with your emotional state like it does over there. It's easier to use this as a solid pivot point to do the healing here. So stay here. If you know somebody that's dealing with that, convince them to stay here. It's much easier to do the work here, even though it's hard. It is hard. I know.
And you went down the path that I was going to take us, because that is the way when you're talking about the fact of basically to be able to get over to the other side and not have to deal with all that stuff. That's where the shadow work comes in. And for those who are unfamiliar, I mean, we've talked about it before, but you never know how some of these concepts may be new to new listeners. What is shadow work?
Shadow work is being willing to look at the deeper, darker places inside, the thoughts, the feelings, the memories that are painful, they're shameful, that you really repress and you want to push them down. They will find a way to come back up. Also, shadow work helps you find your gifts, the things that you love doing, the things that are wonderful about you, your superpowers that you play small, that you have to hide them and keep them concealed. And with shadow work, what we're doing is bringing the light of awareness and acceptance, looking at that. Oh, I get angry about these things. You know what? It's okay that I get angry about that because it's protecting me. That anger is protecting me and I'm worthy of that protection because I get angry. Oh, it's kind of that realization that's bringing that light. So it's really about integrating yourself into a whole being instead of being afraid of the fear or being afraid of your gifts. You look at them as like, oh, this is something cool. This is really wonderful about me. But it's sometimes hard because it's painful to look at these shadows sometimes.
Well, and I think I'm gonna expose myself here, if you will, because I think really, like, for example, when we're talking about crossing over and stuff, I know I've done it well. I've had spirits follow me to a location for me to cross over. For me to talk about it with you was a little daunting to me, because I consider you as someone who has done this so much, that you are so good at it and that you are so immersed in it that there is a little bit of imposter syndrome, because it's like, well, this is you know all about this. I'm some guy in the radio, and that's not true. I mean, and that's where it comes down to, where it's like, I have every right to, I'm telling my truth. I'm speaking my truth. I have every right to do so. Yes. And, when I'm talking about it, and I can see you nod your head about when I've talked about my experience crossing over, that alone just is like, okay, we're on the same page. That's good. It's tough, but it's necessary. You have to go through those steps.
You said two words that are my favorite words in the world. Well, not true, but you know what I mean. I'm a
Greg,
little hyperbole for
Did I
fun.
say Greg Bakun? No, I'm just kidding.
You said imposter syndrome. Do you
Mhm.
know what I hear when I hear somebody saying that they're feeling imposter syndrome? You know what goes through my head as a shadow worker?
What's that?
Oh, you want to be authentic and truthful in what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I hear when you're telling me that you're feeling imposter syndrome. And that's how I know you're doing good work.
I actually, the other day, I had told someone else said that they were suffering from imposter syndrome. And I said to them, an imposter wouldn't use the term imposter syndrome, and I think there's some truth there, a lot of truth there. And I appreciate those words, because it's, you and I have been doing this sort of thing. And I mean, just being in this community for a long time, where you see people who are authentic and amazing, and you see others who it doesn't vibe. It's not quite, you're just wondering a little bit, and you kind of distance. And all you want to do is be able to help. When I got into this, for me, it was all about, like, cool equipment and stuff like that. And then over the course of, 17, nearly 20 years, it's become not going to locations to investigate, but how can I help spirit? And how can I help living with having to work with spirit? And that's a shift that, if you told me that's where I'm going to be at the beginning of this journey, I would have never believed you.
That's why we get along so well, Greg, is because that's my mission too.
Yeah.
To do that healing on both sides of the veil. And you're doing good. I love that, because that's exactly where I wanted to see. There's too much of a spectacle about the paranormal, too much of like, ooh, wow, ooh, spooky. Fine, we can have that, because it's a good introduction for some folks to get into this. But like you said, as you start to see that these are people, these are human beings on both sides of life. They're people reaching out for help. So if we've got the gift, which we do, we all do, you especially have that, why not use it? I love that.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. And we've met. I mean, I'm going to say we, because you have too. I mean, you've mentored many people. You have taught many people. And maybe it's a good time just to kind of talk about some of what you offer for people who would like to go down a journey that they've maybe been thinking about for a long time, along the lines of what we've been talking about tonight.
Absolutely. Like my website, Kaedrich.com. I can get you to links where I've got several online courses, everything from how to run seances safely to paranormal protection, field guide for astral entities and subtle beings. I even have something on Viking spirit communication, because the Norse has been a big part of what I've done. And I know there's got to be a book I've got to write about Norse necromancy. So we've got that. And then I do one-on-one mentoring, with one-on-one sessions where we meet 45 minutes to an hour, and I'll give you homework, things that you can practice, things that you can do to change your lives. And I've got a few various shadow work programs. Like the newest one right now is the Veiled Path, which is designed specifically for what I call spiritually divergent people who might think of themselves as witches, pagans, heathens, people who don't follow a mainstream spiritual path, but they're looking for some spiritual based shadow work to do that healing. That's all available to you.
That's amazing. And once again, it's Kaedrich.com, and that's spelled Kaedrich.com. There are so many amazing people to help, and to get to help you, and not you, Kaedrich. I mean, everyone listening, it's well worth taking a look and seeing it. And we just have this great way of being able to help, being able to help other people. And that's something that I just love seeing. I love seeing the work that you're doing. And I know I've surrounded myself with people who do a lot of this sort of work, because it makes me feel good. It makes, it's just that positive energy of people doing good things. And I love it. How long have you been doing this sort of work now for?
Over 30 years for sure, but literally born into it. And I realize I'm like 53 this year. So I've been interfacing with the paranormal, communicating and doing this work. I mean, really, I remember being in elementary school learning about this stuff, so I've been doing it for practically 50 years now.
Gosh. And, I mean, is there a point though? I mean, because you're born into it, and I get that. I mean, to get that to a certain degree, the moment when you're just like, I can help people. I mean, is that a shift? I mean, was that a shift later on, or was that? I mean, I can't imagine it starts that way.
It was up and down. Needed to be hit by the clue by 4 a few times. I do remember being in high school, realizing a lot of the discussions I was having with people, not just my friends, but other people, people say, wow, I find it so easy to talk to you. I realized, wait a minute, what am I doing? I'm already helping these folks. And then I thought I was going to go into the music business. I got a degree in music business management. I tried my hand at all that. Boy, did that blow up in my face a couple of times. But I kept getting pulled back into this teaching. I kept getting pulled back. And I realized, after the last music blow up, I realized, stop. Your purpose in this life is teaching. It is mentoring. And so I made the full commitment to it. It had my up and down. Sometimes I have my naivety and my moments where I have to like, oh God, that was just dumb. But yeah, it's been there pretty consistently.
I find it really interesting when you're talking about like, you and I feel like I've done the same thing where you feel like you're going down a path you're supposed to, yet that path doesn't seem to be working. And you're talking about the music path for you, the music industry. And, do you think that that's, and lack of a better term of use, divine intervention, the universe or whatever else telling you, no, you are needed here. There's no music career for you, buddy. This is where we need you.
Yes. In fact, this is what I've seen doing shadow work and working with clients and even myself, that higher being, your higher self, made certain agreements for this lifetime, came here to do a certain thing. And the life we live, the things that go on in our life in the day-to-day world and the physical world throw us off track. It does. Every single person gets thrown off track. It just happens. And then higher self comes along and goes, boop, reset button. And then life falls apart. Everything just comes crashing down. And this is what we call the dark night of the soul. This is where people lose jobs. They lose homes. Sometimes they lose their families. Everything just falls out. They think they're at rock bottom. This is awful. It's tough. I went through a 3-year dark night of the soul because sometimes I'm clueless. And as I went through this one, and I see this with people, what this is all about is getting you back on track for your purpose, getting you back on track for why you're here, what your life is really about. And so it sucks, but remember, higher self isn't peace, love, and light, puppy dogs, and rainbows. Higher self can be a butt kicker. Higher self is sometimes a jerk. And if you look at the lives of every mystical teacher in this world, every single one, they all went through a dark night of the soul. They had to go into that abyss so that they could find their way through it. So if you're going through that dark night of the soul, you're in really good company.
Oh, I bet. Well, and that's the thing that's I think kind of sucks in a way about modernization and whatnot, because you're going through the dark night of the soul, but at the same time, it's hard to tell loved ones who are they're relying on you to bring home a paycheck, whatever else, that because doing that, you do have to give up control. You have to be like, I know that this is, I know this is going to work. I have to have faith that this is going to work. I have to, work through that. But it's hard to explain to other people who are relying on you at the same time that, hey, this is what's happening. And even to your point though, even if you're noticing it, you may not even be realizing it. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. And I totally get that. Because in the immediate needs, sometimes we have that immediate need. So we get that job. Of course, we need to take care of that.
Yeah.
But always, even if it's a side hustle, even if it's just a few moments here or there, do something. And what you will find is the struggle lessens. You may be having to do that job that you don't like. You maybe just have to be out there getting that paycheck. But if you take in a few hours a day, even an hour a day,
Yep.
to do what's your purpose, little things will happen. Like you get more green lights. Somebody go, oh, what are you doing? That's interesting. Things will just start to fall into place. And then you'll find that you'll get more and more momentum. And the more you start doing it, the more these things just fall into place. And then it's just like, oh. And then at some point it just gets easy. It's just like, well, of course, this is what I'm doing.
Right.
Everything falls away that isn't in alignment with you.
Absolutely. Kaedrich, what we're going to do, let's take our next break here. Let me come back. I want to talk a little bit more about this subject. I promised we're going to talk about the Whisperers. We're going to do that in the next segment because I think people would really like to know what we're talking about there. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Greg Bakun here. I love historic tours of Minneapolis and seeing everything it has to offer. But if you know me, I like to include a little spooky in my tours, which is why I found the perfect combination. Minneapolis Trolley Tours does this amazing candlelight ghost tour that you have to check out. It's an extremely immersive experience. It's a trolley trip that starts out at a haunted mansion, traveling around Minneapolis locations exposing ghost stories that the public and business owners would rather left untold. Then a tour of the aforementioned haunted mansion where ghosts of past residents from the 1800s reside, plus a lot of surprises to discover. Next, experience Gertrude's After Hours. Did I mention Gertrude is the mansion's most famous ghost? Maybe she'll show up. And you finish up the tour at Gertrude's Lounge in the haunted basement of the mansion with refreshments and Q&A. The trolleys are climate controlled and the mansion is restored to perfection. Check out MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for more information. Have you ever met someone who not only can help you on a deep spiritual level, but also potentially change your life? Refined Divine is an extremely gifted psychic medium who travels the nation and lives right here in the Midwest. And she offers mediumship, mentorship, house and business parties, energy healing, palm readings, and so much more. Refined Divine has helped thousands, and she can help you.
Hi, this is Psychic Medium Deb. I cannot wait to hear from you. You can go to refineddivinepsychic.com.
Greg Bakun here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh, every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville. It's that time of year again where the weather is getting nice and it's time to get out of the house for some family fun. Lilliput is the perfect place and is open for the season. Be the first to take on their newest escape room, The Bunker. It's intense, exciting, and totally unforgettable. Prefer spooky? Try the Haunted Mansion. When you're done escaping, hit the mini golf course, go-karts, and jump pads. Lilliput is perfect for parties and group events too. Visit lilliput.net for hours and start your spring adventures at Lilliput. And join me tomorrow on GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun. We are going to see the return of psychic medium Refined Divine. Deb is going to be with us tomorrow, as well as her husband Dave. And we're going to do one-question readings. Love it. It's always fun to do. Come to us with questions regarding love and you want to know about your pet, or if you want to understand what happened to grandma or whatever else. Join us tomorrow for that. We don't talk about politics. We don't talk about medical. We don't talk about lawyers, but it's always a lot of fun. You're more than welcome to join in, send a question, call in tomorrow. It's going to be a great time. We're having an amazing conversation tonight with Kaedrich Olsen. I'm really enjoying this. This is what I was hoping this conversation would be, and I really appreciate it. And Kaedrich has kind of piggybacking from our last segment. When I was offered this nightly gig doing the radio show, it might come as a surprise. It doesn't pay a whole lot, so it's not necessarily like it can be my full-time job. But I was really unsure about taking it because I was working for a big corporate organization, and I was really unsure taking it, even though I really wanted to. This is a dream to have a radio show and to be able to share paranormal with the world, and I wasn't sure what to do, because I had this full-time job that started like at 8 a.m. This, I'm done. I get to bed around 1:30 after doing the show. I didn't know what to do, Kaedrich. And then a week later, they let me go from that job. And nothing ever happened in my life before where I was just like, this is specifically because I'm meant to do this job. But that's how I was when I was let go. I was like, you just cleared the way for me to do this, and I can now work around it a different way. And so 100%, but it's hard, but you have to trust the process, so to speak, I guess.
Absolutely. It is hard because that's a comfort zone that we built in. We built in this identity of who I am, the corporate job that I've got. That's me. That's security. That's here. And now I'm doing this thing and everything else falls apart. But the way you had it was right. Yeah, great. Because you were tuning into your authenticity. You were tuning into your purpose, why you were here. You were tuning into the greater good of your existence. And when people do that, the things that are resistant to that, the things that are out of alignment, they will fall away through attrition. It will happen with people in our lives. We have our loved ones, we have our friends. And then when we start to be our true authentic self, they're like, what's wrong with you? Why are you different?
Yeah.
Keep doing it. Keep being the way you are, because you will find things that will come to you that resonate with you. And it gets so much better. It gets so much better.
It does. And during that period of time, speaking strictly for myself, there's times that I wasn't sure where money was going to be coming in. I wasn't sure how long I'm going to be able to keep this house and stuff. And I really worked on a sort of a program of manifestation, and a program of just like having faith in that, having faith that things will work out. Doesn't mean that I'm going to sit at home and not do anything and just pray that things work my way. I mean, you gotta make things. You have to make progress. You just can't accept it coming in by itself. But that's the point, though, is knowing that the universe will provide, and but you got to be open to that. And people say it, but I don't think people believe it, and that's hard. And I don't blame them, but that's truly what needs to happen.
Exactly. It's the feeling. We could say the thoughts. Yeah, I know it's out there and I hope it comes. That kind of thing. It's like, well, sure, you can know it's out there. You can know there's that potential. But then what are you feeling? Inside, God, it's so hard. It's not possible. The inner beliefs are like, oh, it's not for me. I don't think I could ever do that. And that's the shadow work again. We go in, we do the shadow work, but then what I call interruptive processing. I know I can do this. I know the universe is in alignment with me. I know there's that abundance out there. And when you feel that fear, scarcity, that fear, right? That all kicks in because it's primordial. It's what kept our ancestors alive, and what keeps us alive. Acknowledge the fear. Like, cool, there's the fear. But then take a breath and turn it to excitement. Wouldn't it be cool? Isn't it cool that there's this abundance? Isn't it cool that this is happening? Isn't it great? And then you feel that excitement. And then you go back and say, yeah, I am becoming more prosperous. I am becoming more abundant. Feel that excitement, even if you have to fake it. I know people say, what about fake it till you make it? Fake it for now. Just fake it.
Right.
You feel the fear. Cool. There it is. Yeah, but it's happening. And that feeling shifts it dramatically.
And don't give up if it doesn't happen right away. Right. I mean, because nothing ever happens right away.
I love that you said that, because when we look at like Harry Potter movies, or we see the magic movies, we kind of expect a bibbity bobbity boop magic instant.
Right. Yeah.
But I will tell you that the medium of magic is time.
Mm-hmm.
What you are visualizing, what you are feeling exists. It already exists. That state of prosperity, abundance, alignment, it already exists. But hold it, hold that faith, hold that belief. It's there, and time will catch up to it, and you'll be there.
Absolutely. We have about 8 minutes left. I want to finally get to the Whisperers. You talked about them. They play a massive part in your life. You mentioned it on the website. For those who are unaware, who are the Whisperers?
In essence, they're my guides. They're higher level beings. Sometimes they used to have had bodies. A lot of them don't have bodies. Sometimes they just don't even have form. They're just existence of consciousness. But they're higher level beings that share with me this knowledge that I'm able to transmit to people, that I'm able to help out. They've been with me for my entire life. And the reason why I call them whispers is, like, if you notice your own thoughts, they tend to be loud, they tend to be pervasive and prominent. But these are like quiet little whispers, quiet little, think about this. Ooh, what do you think about that? And like those lessons come through in those quiet little ways.
Mhm.
And one of the cool things is when I sit one-on-one with clients, when I'm here, I call in the whispers. They're here now, and I call in their guides. And so I'm having like these like three-way conversations sometimes, hearing the whispers kind of translate what guides are talking. So basically, whispers are my spirit guides, higher advanced level beings that give me this knowledge that really is super helpful.
Did you name them when you were a child?
Yeah, just because that's how they were whispered, but
Yeah, that's fine.
individually they don't have names.
No, that's incredible, and they've and they sound like, I mean, were they ever human once?
Somewhere.
Okay,
Somewhere. Most are not. Some were extraterrestrials. I will say that for a fact. But some, like there's this one right here that is just, I don't know how to describe it other than like a wave of consciousness, just like a state of being. There's no form. It's just existing consciousness.
have they always been the same ones, or do you get new ones, or
They
they're
cycled. They cycled over the years. Some have stayed for most of the time, but most of them cycle out depending on where I am in my growth, or the things that I need to be teaching, or the things I need to be doing and learning. They change.
I was wondering if that was the case when you said that they cycle out. Is, I suppose there's a certain point where they're maybe not needing more, then they move on to somebody else, presumably.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They've definitely been guides. I've actually had clients that have like, I think we've had the same whisper. I think we've had the same guide. I'm like, yep, we sure did. It's happened.
That's incredible. That's really neat. I love that. And I mean, they've helped. I mean, they've kind of helped forge your life and forge your identity, I guess, in a sense, and what you do.
In fact, when I was telling you about that 3-year dark night of the soul that I went
Yeah.
through, I wanted out of here. I'm like, let me just teach the stuff and let me get out of here. And they're like, no, we're not giving you this stuff just to teach it. You need to use it. And I'm like, no, come on, let me just write a book. Let me put web pages. Let me get out of here. No, you need to use it because the messenger has to be the message. People need to see that this works. So you need to apply it and put it to work now and start making these changes. And I'm like, fine. I hate you. So I started to use it, and I'm here because of the lessons they taught me and insisted that I put those lessons to use for myself.
Well, it's something else I was wondering about when you're talking about that. It's like that, that 3 years, and they're there to guide, but they're not there to tell you what to do. I mean, they're telling you what you need to do, but they're not telling you what, they're not taking you there. You have to do that journey still yourself.
Correct. In fact, that's one of the litmus tests that anybody can do. If they're wondering if they're talking to a higher level being or a guide, push back. Say, no, that's stupid. I'm not doing that. And they'll just kind of shrug their shoulders like, okay, it's your free will. It's your life. But they're persistent. They'll never force you, but they're like, hey, do you think about this? Do you think about that? Or do you want to learn this? Do you want to? No, I don't want to learn that. That's stupid. And then somebody will come up to you and say, hey, I got this book out of nowhere. I thought of you. So here, have this book. And it just happens to be on that subject. I'm like, okay, fine.
Well, and you keep saying stuff that is the next thing I'm going to ask, because that is truly what I was going to ask is like, you had talked about pushing back on them. And I suppose I never talked to anybody else who talks about their guides that much about, do you push back or anything? Because I suppose that's just a general part of any relationship that, that it's just like, even though you're a guide to me, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do what you're telling me to do. I have my own thing. Stop telling me what to do.
Exactly. And you know what? These beings don't exist in any sense of time that we understand. And so if you put it to use right now and you make use of it, great. If you want to wait till next lifetime to make use of it, great. To them, it's all the same. And when you get to the other side, you'll see it's all the same anyway.
Right. Talking about going the other side, we have about 2 minutes left. And Linda, I see your question. I think that's just a little too big of a concept to talk about with 2 minutes left. But you can also go over to Kaedrich.com, Kaedrich.com. Maybe send him a note there and check out some of the classes and stuff as well. But first of all, you talked about aliens, which now we have to have you back talking about that. That's one of the things that seems to be my next step with all that. There was something else I was just going to bring up, and I totally lost it, unfortunately. And it was probably one of the best things we would have ever had on the show, but whatever, right? That's gone forever now, right? What can you do?
We're going to save it for the next show.
We're going to save it for the next show. I'm going to see if I can remember what that was. I love this because we're asking questions and it creates more questions. More questions, not a bad thing. It doesn't mean that we're not getting to an answer. It just means that we are finding more things to talk about. And it's just this whole area of exploration. And that's the thing I really love about this conversation.
In fact, I tell people, if I ever give you an answer, you find an answer, you went the wrong way. But if you find the means to ask better questions, keep following that path.
And that's a really good point, actually, because that is it. I mean, and the questions should never stop. You never should get to a point where it's like, I have no more questions. And I think what I was going to say, and I don't know if we have really time to really get into it, but you kind of talked about when you cross over that you're going to find a lot of things the same. And another thing I've always believed is that when you cross over, it doesn't mean that you have total, you have exposure to everything, everything. The point of existence is evolution, and evolution is always getting to the next level. So I think that, when people are like, oh, once we cross, we now know everything. That is, in my mind, totally not true.
What if there's a part of you that is omniscient and omnipotent, but it's so bored with it that it has to find these limitations and pitfalls to play little games with and experience the fun of it?
Absolutely. So now we have the hook for our next conversation with Kaedrich. Go to Kaedrich.com, Kaedrich.com. We're going to have you back on. I got to go. Tomorrow we're going to have on Refined Vine. Everyone, have a fantastic night.